We'll be speaking about heritage preservation, storytelling, and online access. I am the head of preservation at Google Arts and Culture. I'll get into the details about what that actually means in a minute, but your first thought that you're probably asking is, first question, what is Google Arts and Culture? Well, if you've never heard of us or heard of our organization or mobile app, we essentially are the next step in the mission that is of Google to help organize and make the world's information more accessible to people. So we are doing that through our free online platform for public, private institutions to make the world's culture and art more accessible for everyone, anywhere, for free. We're currently in partnership with more than 2,500 partners from around the world, many in this country and many in far off locations. It's an interesting story about where we come from. There are not many groups. We are a not-for-profit group within the larger ecosystem of the company of Google, but the story is almost 10 years long, and I won't bore you with it or surprise you with it, but I will just say that it begins, because I don't have the time today, but it begins with a small group of engineers and people that were interested in making digital technology work for the cultural sector in exciting and impactful ways. As I said, almost 10 years ago. And over time, we have expanded from only working with, first it was working with art collections and digitizing artworks in high resolution, to also including Street View, bringing Street View inside of museums, inside of opera houses, and also showcasing performing arts and intangible heritage as well. So here's an example of and this is just a small sample of what's been done over the last couple of years, but closer to home, we here in the UK, we launched a very large project with English Heritage about 2 years ago. Harry Potter with the British Library, basically after their blockbuster exhibition at the British Library, we brought the work of all of the curators and the institutions that contributed to that incredible story. We brought the story online so that it can be preserved and that people can access it from around the world. So that works as a great example to kind of give you an idea of what we've been doing and what we're continuing to do with our partners at Google Arts and Culture. So we support our partners doing it in a number of ways. There's the art camera that we created many years ago, and it is still being used not only on artworks, but also, for example, pointing it straight up and taking high-resolution photographs of St. Paul's Cathedral. You can go online and explore that, and you can actually see this in many other locations around the world where the high-resolution imagery capabilities that we've been offering our partners for free have been experimented with in different ways. Museum view is what we call taking Street View inside of museums. This will play out, and I will give a good example of how this has been used in the past, and you probably are aware of it yourselves in being able to visit museums digitally online over these last few months too. But we also recognize that many of our partners have enormous online, or maybe they're not online yet, enormous collections and archives. So we offer tabletop scanners as well and we've experimented with this on different levels of digitizing manuscripts, of coins, and in this picture you can actually see a glass plate photograph taken by a British explorer from the 19th century at the British Museum. Now, those are some of the technologies that we offer, and we work with our partners to provide them for free of charge completely. But there's also the most important element, I would say, well, I'd say it's kind of the equally important element is, on one hand, and it's been spoken and mentioned here by other speakers today too, there's the step of taking physical offline assets and making them digital. And then there are born digital assets that go hand in hand. And if those can be used in a way that can be promoted and shared as part of a storytelling system or platform, that is how we work with our partners in different ways. So we have a web-powered app successful on any device. We work directly with Google Search to help make it easier for people to find the information that they're looking for on a particular artist, art movement, or even a painting. For example, if you type in Starry Night, you will actually be able to zoom into the high resolution photograph taken in the MoMA with the Google Art camera. And I also wanted to mention and add here that we do work with YouTube creators in a variety of ways to really bring art and heritage and history to a new audience that is increasingly more online in social media. One of those examples of how social media can be useful, you may have, or useful in engaging people in a different way to art. This was about 2 years ago when the Art Selfie launched from the Google Arts and Culture app. Now, thanks to celebrities like Kate Hudson on the left, millions of her social media followers actually, they were able to learn about art in a different way. And what Art Selfie does is it's just a fun, engaging way to engage with art by using artificial intelligence or machine learning to find a similarity between your picture or a picture that you take with an artwork or a portrait. Interestingly enough, because of the millions of people that were sharing and learning art and actually exploring art in different ways, in fun, engaging way, Kate Stewart on the right, she was just a story that I wanted to mention is that she was playing with this app herself for the first time, and she took a picture and found surprisingly that it matched her with her own grandmother's portrait that she had never seen. And it was in an art a museum on the other side of the country, and this was very surprising for her and her daughter to find when she was playing with the app. But she did know that her grandmother and her grandfather were both. Her grandfather was an artist, but it was a very interesting example of how AI was able to actually connect her directly with her own heritage. And so, anyone watching this, you can simply download the Google Arts and Culture app and try this out, as well as many other features that I'm going to show you in a second, that are part of what we call the camera tab, which is at the bottom center of the Google Arts and Culture app. Something that we released just a few weeks ago, oh no, actually, yeah, more than a month ago, I believe, is that this is called Art Transfer. So building on this time not using the connections between one image to another, but actually making it a fun way for you to take a picture and apply the transfer of an art work to a photograph that you would like to take, and then you can share it. And of course, all of the copyright and attributions are correctly done, and we go through that process with all of our many partners from around the world, which is extremely important to us. Also, because many of us unfortunately are not able to visit artworks, you can bring artworks into your home if you choose to, using the camera tab. This was launched, I believe, late last year, but it's absolutely relevant today, where you can project an artwork at its full correct resolution and using the correct metadata so you get the correct size in your living room. We also have an option feature, which is called the Pocket Gallery. And there are a number of examples in which we're kind of experimenting with how augmented reality allows us to bring artworks physically together, or virtually together, rather, in a way that is not physically possible in some ways. And you can do this by following artworks by color, or also even Vermeer's works. And so I'd like to share with you 3 diverse examples of some recent project launches that we've done with our partners to give you an idea of the diversity that we cover, because there is a lot, as you can imagine. A little bit further from home, but still here within Europe. Just a few weeks ago, we launched a project in collaboration with multiple institutions in Croatia, which was shining a light on the intangible heritage of arts and crafts. The celebrations that take place in Croatia, the music, the food, and there's some really really amazing videos and street views so you can explore parts of Croatia virtually if you would choose to. I mentioned YouTube creators before. This is a little bit different than that, but this was season 2 of Art Zoom. You can find this on the Google Arts and Culture YouTube channel. What we did is we worked with some of today's biggest names in music to narrate some of the world's most famous artworks. And it's been extremely successful. People have been engaged and learned and been exposed to art who normally may have never been interested in those particular artworks or those artists before. So we found that to be extremely rewarding, and we worked with all the local institutions to complete that. And while we are, the majority of us, working and living primarily from home these days, there is also something that we were putting together previous to when lockdown occurred, but this is a new gaming experiments part of Google Arts and Culture that our lab team has created. You can do this together. You can color artworks online. You can put together puzzles of your favorite artwork with friends. You can do crossword puzzles as well, and short quizzes, which works very well to help pass the time and learn about art and heritage. And so I want to close with a few examples. I'm not closing quite yet, but I want to use this as a moment to kind of switch to give an example and to explain to you why heritage matters to me and my background, and that will then lead us to some examples, particularly to cultural heritage preservation that we have been doing over the last 4 years since I joined Google Arts and Culture. So the first of these 3 images is one, the place that I'm most interested in from an archaeological perspective. I studied archaeology and ancient history, and that is the Maya region of Central America and Mexico. One of the projects that I've worked on in Mexico was 3D scanning an ancient Mayan city, Campeche State. The image that you see at the top is a Mayan pyramid, a Mayan structure hidden underneath of the foliage in the trees. And the image that you see below is what is possible when you virtually remove the trees using a 3D scan, and you can then see much more, actually evaluate the volume of the building and understand much more about the people who once lived there. And the last image I just wanted to also reference. This object that you see here is actually a 3D print of an object that is now gone. It has been destroyed, it is lost. That was due to the destruction of it in the Mosul Museum in Iraq in 2015. But the reason and the way that we actually are able to have a 3D print, this one being shown at the Imperial War Museum at an exhibition a few months ago, about a year ago actually, and in Mosul a few months before that, is that we were able to crowdsource the images donated by people online to create a 3D replica of the Lion of Mosul. And that was only done with, I think, 14 photographs using technology called photogrammetry. And so I think what's important to recognize, I'm going to show a few examples if I have the time to do them all. I will. If I don't, I'll skip over a few. But I just want to give everyone an idea of the importance of cultural heritage to Google and Google Arts and Culture, and the ways in which that we are promoting the work of our partners from different parts of the world and the collections and cultures that they work as a part of. So firstly, this was just launched last Thursday. World Tourism Day was on Sunday, this past Sunday. And for the first time, you can now type in to Google search on your phone right now, if you wanted to try it, but please, if you maybe wait a few moments once I finished my talk, you can bring any of these incredible heritage sites from around the world. You can see them in 3D on your phone, but you can also then project them and see them in your living room and learn more about the story that is behind each of them. And we're hoping to be able to do this more in the coming near to long term as well. But this is the first time that's been made available. Another project that I've been working on, and with a partner Australian Center for Egyptology and a number of Egyptologists from around the world, was to experiment with the power of AI to help decode ancient languages. The first language we wanted to focus on for this particular experiment were Egyptian hieroglyphs, specifically Middle Egyptian. And what we did is we created a free app. Anyone can experiment with it. They can explore it. You can learn, play, or work with Egyptian hieroglyphs in English and in Arabic. And it works on mobile. It works on desktop. But the learn part allows you to interactively learn and walk through the steps of how an Egyptologist goes about their work in deciphering hieroglyphs, and you actually are able to create your own hieroglyph set, cartouche actually, that you're able to share with your friends and family members online. And it's a fun way to learn a little bit more about this amazing ancient culture in a playful way, because that's what we always are trying to do, experimenting with both online storytelling and bringing art and history to new audiences in different ways. We also found it useful as a way to create kind of a chat system, which allows you to click and type out, or there are some fixed phrases where you can choose to send messages to your friends in Egyptian hieroglyphs, and you can use emojis as well. But the core of this experiment is called Fabricius, is the desktop-only tool that we designed with researchers for researchers with researchers, which uses machine learning to speed up the process and the workflow of how quickly unfortunately, it's usually a very long process. So what we're using is AI and experimenting with how we can speed up that for them. When probably about a month after lockdown started, we had been working with UNESCO prior to when that it occurred, but UNESCO wanted to launch a Share Our Heritage campaign. So we published 40 stories about 40 cultural heritage sites. They published them on Google Arts and Culture and promoted them on their social media, which was a very positive engagement resource for people in those countries and people that could not travel to those countries. One of the last projects that we launched before lockdown occurred was Heritage on the Edge. This project was launched at the end of this January, and it showcased the local voices of a global story, the local chapters of that story, and highlighting the diverse impacts of climate change on cultural heritage sites. We did this with the International Council of Monuments and Sites and SCI-Arc at 5 World Heritage Sites, one of them not too far away from where most of us are probably located, Edinburgh Castle. If you've visited, it's a beautiful place, but you would be surprised to know that it actually shares a number of different impacts that climate change is affecting. And we worked also with Historic Environment Scotland, of course, to bring the stories to life and to share the stories about what is happening. And this is just a small sample. As we all know, much more is happening. Just last year, we had concluded 3 years of work with the British Museum and the Mexican government to bring an online collection basically about the work of Alfred Maudsley, who was a British explorer who took photographs during his travels in the 19th century of ancient Mayan art. And we were able to use some of his photographs to actually recreate to full scale a 3D printed Mayan hieroglyphic staircase that you see today has deteriorated over time. And it's been sent and shipped to the site at Palenque in Mexico, where it is currently going to be installed in situ. I mentioned earlier about Street View, and you are probably very familiar with using it on your phone or on your computer with finding directions to where you need to go. But with Street View in museums, we've been working with our partners for many years, and in this particular case was the very unfortunate disaster of the fire that caught fire in the National Museum in Brazil in Rio de Janeiro. This was in 2018, and we had been working with them 2 years beforehand. We had gone through with our Street View team to take images of 360, 360-degree imagery to create virtual tours. But following the fire, we immediately reached out to the director and the curators, and they helped finalize a lot of images that they had already taken. And I think, and so we launched it online 100 days after the fire occurred. And it was quite an emotional moment, but it was also a very powerful moment because, of course, the objects that were lost in the fire can never be replaced. But this represented a way to preserve the memory of what was there, and this was extremely impactful for the local students and educators and the curators as well. And one of the last, I think this is the last project that I wanted to highlight is Open Heritage. This is a very important project to me personally and to many of our partners that we're working with on it, including SIRC, which is a very small nonprofit in the United States, but also Historic Environment Scotland and the University of South Florida. And that is in which we recognize that there are institutions around the world that are completing 3D reality capture of heritage sites using photogrammetry, drones, 3D laser scanning, or high-resolution photography too. And what we have done is we've brought them all together in one place, and we're looking for more organizations to join us because we want to make the 3D available, the 3D models available for people to use. Educators can use this information and data online for free. You can download the raw data itself so that researchers can use that data in whatever way they choose to for non-commercial purposes. It's under Creative Commons licensing. And you can actually find all of that is hosted by our partners on openheritage3d.org, where you can see the vast diversity of locations and sites. And this may prove useful for any of you that are using, that would be interested in using 3D data and in different ways with your online assets and communities and audiences for educational purposes. So I just want to finish so that we have time for a few questions if we would like to, if we have time. Just takeaways for the many of you that are part of heritage organizations tuning in today is that what we recognize very obviously even before we found ourselves in this situation in 2020 is that the power of technology can help organizations of all sizes, of course, reach new audiences in different ways, but that in developing a digital strategy now is even more important because online and distance learning, online education, and community interaction is primarily being facilitated through online platforms. And there are many opportunities and many incredible organizations doing this in the world. And I would just like to mention that if you're interested in learning more about Google Arts and Culture, becoming a partner, please go to artsandculture.google.com. You can find more information about the partnerships on the About page. And if not, maybe just download our free app and learn and explore art in a different way. So thank you very much for your attention.